Hey guys, how you guys doing today? So today we're going to do a quick tip video, and I'm going to show you how to truly get that ego out the picture. We're going to disengage it. So we're going to talk about the ego in relationship to the higher mind, okay? So here's what we want to keep in mind. Let's talk about the relationships of how the minds work, okay? So now we know that the ego is basically the limited part of our consciousness. It's severely limited. Just look at it as the mind that doesn't have the full capabilities of your subconscious or higher mind. Now remember, subconscious mind is associated with high intelligence. It's the gateway to your higher self, all right? So let's keep that in mind. The conscious mind is very limited, subconscious is unlimited. So let's use an analogy. So we're going to say, and we're going to use the higher self as an adult with a lot of experience. And we're going to put your ego as a young child that has inexperience. So let's look at some tendencies that the ego pursue or has, that a young child has. So an ego is very impatient. Young kids are very impatient. Ego thinks it knows it all because it can reason, it can rationalize, it can think. Young kids, your child thinks they know it all as well. At that age, they pretend or they think they know everything. Okay, you guys know what I'm talking about. All right. Now, the higher mind, on the other hand, has more experience. So here's a key facet. Think about this. Anytime you allow your mind or your conscious mind to really take over and pull things or to create things, in essence, it's an illusion. Remember, the ego is only can maintain from what your subconscious mind creates. Remember, the subconscious mind is the gateway to your higher self. The higher mind uses that part. So keep in mind, if you are allowing your ego or the conscious mind to run things or run the show, then you are in essence not going anywhere. What does Mark mean by that? Well, you're going in a perpetual loop. Because again, it's like a child running an adult. Would you let your young kid control your life? Would you let your child tell you how to run your life, to drive? Would you give your child the keys to the car to drive? No. Well, this is what happens in essence when you allow your ego to take hold of you. It's like you're giving that young kid the keys to your car, to run the business, to take your life. And the evidence is shown because you are not experiencing your desires. Okay? You're in that loop. We call that reality loop. You will keep doing the same thing over and over again. This is the ego's way of keeping you safe. Now look, the ego has a myriad of different facets, okay? It's a survival mind, but it also has other aspects, okay? It's a boastful, it's a prideful mind, okay? It's a competitive mindset, okay? It's intelligent, it can reason, it can think. All these create this vast facet that gives you illusions, because that part of your mind will literally make you believe or think you are in control. In essence, you're not, right? So why is it like that? How does it occur? Well, it occurs because of how you were programmed or you were taught when you were young. See, your mind is very, very intelligent. See, it can pick up, it can reason, it can rationalize, it learns very fast. So think about this. I want to show you something. I want you to think about this when you were young. Think about when you were in school. What's the primary factor you were always taught about your mind, how the mind works? Well, here's an example. When you have problems, they were told or you were taught to face and fix. So your ego developed that fix-it mentality. Call it Mr. Fix-It. I can solve it. See, the thing about your ego, guys, is something unique. Did you know that your own conscious mind has no awareness of its limitations? It doesn't know it's limited. In its mind, it thinks it knows everything. It thinks it can get you what you want or your desires. And then when you don't get your desires, guess what your mind do? It justifies, it blames you, and it makes you blame other individuals, makes you become that victim. These are all the indications that you're in your control of the ego mind. So how do I get out of that loop? Well, we have to resort to the higher mind. A couple things you have to do to get to that higher mind. Number one, you have to believe and accept that the subconscious or your higher self is in total control. The proof, the evidence is there. We know this. Neuroscience, quantum physics. We have all the experiments. We put things together. We know how the universe works and the laws such as vibration, oscillation. We work with the fundamental forces of gravity or the universal forces, and gravity is one of them. Remember, we have the weak nuclear force, strong nuclear force, electromagnetic spectrum, which is electricity and magnetism, light. Okay, gravity, that law of attraction force. So we know how these things work, and we know how they're in relationship to your consciousness, right? So the key factor is to recognize the science. Okay, so now you know the science. So once you have that science, now we have to know the psychology of your mind. So your ego, because it's limited, it's full of pride. It's full of that, what we call that competition. It knows things, okay? It thinks it knows things. This is one facet you must recognize. So number one, I must remember that my ego is primitive now when it comes to a higher consciousness awareness, okay? Number two, my ego cannot get me my desires. It just cannot. It's severely limited. First of all, your ego has no awareness of what exists beyond a higher dimension. Okay, here's the limitation. I'm gonna give you the limitation of your ego. Time. It's stuck with time. It used time in linear format. So your ego will put things in time, and that's the biggest trick, and that's the biggest defeat for you, because it tells you things as such. Hey, you're not gonna get it. By the time you get it, you're too old. You're not gonna have it. See, now you regress and you get down on your desires and you give up. Here's something I'm going to tell you guys now to keep you up. Your subconscious mind, time doesn't exist. It's all happening now. And here's something else we discovered. It's really true. There's only one form of time, the ever-present moment. See, your mind or your ego developed time as that logical structure, just for organizational purposes. So here's your first tip. When your mind is controlling you with time, that's an illusionary concept. It doesn't work that way. Here's the other tip. If you can only focus on what you desire, I can guarantee you that you will see your reality start to change. Why? The laws of physics. Get out of the ego. The ego will focus on what it forms in that loop. Your higher mind will focus on the thoughts and the energy you put out as a directive energy source. It comes back to you and you experience it in what we call materialized fashion. So how to get out of the ego? Recognize what it is. Expose it. Know that it's a limited mind. It functions in a limited capacity, and it can only use your past. That's right. It's only references to the past, which is what? Time, an illusion. A memory. It's just a memory. Did you know that you are not what you were in the past, so to speak? In other words, every single second of every single moment, the atomic particles, the structural cellular particles in your body are constantly changing and fluctuating. In essence, you are, every moment of every time, you are a new being. We can prove this in science. Your cells are constantly changing. You weren't that person you were that moment ago, on an atomic level, on a structural cellular level. Okay? So you know that your ego will use that because the memory stays within you, and it comes back and it uses it to haunt you. This is what you did in the past. You can't do this now. Remember what you are. You're not good enough. You can't have this. See, guys, realizing and having the awareness is the beginning to change. So there's your first tip. Have the awareness to that ego, what it is. Expose it. That young child doesn't have to listen to you. You don't listen to it anymore. Now you get into the higher mind. So how do we get into the higher mind? Meditation. Okay? Speak the languages of the higher mind. What is it? Visuals, imagery, thoughts. Keep your thoughts only on what you want. Don't worry about the middle part, how, why, and when. Remember, that's the ego. Why? Let's go back. The problem solver. It tries to figure things out. It has to do it. It's its natural tendency. If you are in a state of figuring things out, or always trying to doubt and figure, bing, 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 clear indication you're in the ego. Take a nice deep breath. Exhale. Say these words. Thank you, but I only allow thoughts that are in line with my desire to enter my mind. Boom. Use your outer voice just like that, and watch how your ego negates. Here's another big tip about your mind. Your conscious mind can't focus on two things at the same time. That's how our minds are. You cannot do it. Your mind either has to keep one thought or get distracted and focus on the other. When you use your outer voice and you negate, you're going to distract the mind. That's all you want to do. It's going to negate from that negative thought. It's going to move towards something positive. You change that. Also, when you use that phrase or use your outer voice, you know you are affirming to that ego mind now that, hey, I'm aware of what's going on, and I'm in control. The beauty of your mind is it will change. Repetition. Repetition is a language that changes subconscious and conscious. Here's the formula. Awareness, repetition, persistence. Awareness leads to change. Repetition leads to change. persistence equals all desires manifested. This is how you'll do this. Once you continue this, you will notice how your lives will improve. You will manifest more. Whatever it is, money, lottery wins, anything you can do, you can manifest. Because here's the two factors that really stop you. Your own mind. Subconscious, those blocks. Ego, with the limitation and the false illusions of who it thinks you are. Once you can get these two facets out of the way or under control, manifestation, or what I call allowance, because everything will follow the law of physics or the law of the universe, which is law of abundance and not struggle, not lack. It's against universal principles for us to struggle and have lack. It just doesn't work that way. Just because the universe is infinite, everything has the same particles, we're all made from it, there's no shortage of it. So that goes beyond that law. So if you can do these things and have the awareness and you continue, you'll easily overcome that ego mind. You will move forward into a higher existence. Now, that will take you into what is called the detachment phase. See guys, detachment becomes very easy. The reason why a lot of us struggle with detachment is because you're still generated by the ego, or the ego still has control. See, once you can realize and use the science, okay, and see how the mind works and see how the universe works on a cellular or a structural mathematical level, or quantum physics, you will see how things will start to form for you. It will all of a sudden, the light will go off in your head and say, boom, wow, it's true. This is what happens, okay? So keep this in mind. Always use the science behind it to see that your mind and the universe all exist in one, okay? Keep your mind only on the thoughts that make you feel good, and you will negate and disengage that ego. The ego is only there for primitive. I call it the primitive mind because it's literally primitive when it comes to manifesting. The ego is perfect. You perfect in a sense of knowing your desires. Okay, that's what the ego is perfect for. It's perfect in giving you the thoughts to create. Okay, it's perfect when it gives you the emotion of love. You know what love is. Those are all good qualities of the ego. They're there. But the other side to the ego is its obnoxiousness, its pride, it's puffed up, its intelligence. Okay, and these things kind of, what we say, it uses and it's puffed up, it's too good for itself, so to speak. So recognize these qualities and then we'll move forward. Now, let's go with the emotion. Once you visualize, okay, the emotion will flow easily because now it becomes a natural state. See, key point you guys know, I want you to realize it. See, when you're using those thoughts and when you generate those emotions, you know where they come from? The heart. Yes, you're using your heart to manifest. So if you want to speed up manifestation, here's a big tip. Heart. So here's a big tip to get the manifestation faster. Gratitude. Be grateful, be grateful, be grateful. That heart creates that energy and the universe will say, oh, more of the same thing. He's happy because of what? I have more money. I'm grateful for more of this. I'm grateful for more of that. Remember, subconscious doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. All the universe is picking up is that I'm grateful for these things. Even if you don't have them, if you're not experiencing them right now, the key is just to show the grateful. Thank you for having this. Always give thanks for what you have, even if you don't have it right now. Because the trick is we're working with the subconscious. It doesn't know. It's not going to judge you. The ego will come in and say, what are you doing? This ain't working. This is where you use the outer voice. Thank you, but it's going to be okay. Thank you, but I only choose to allow thoughts that make me feel good to enter my mind. Each time you say these things or this statement, this technique, it will continually to disengage and get that ego out the picture. Okay? So key point, guys. These are some tips that you will use, or you can use now, and you'll see differences in your business, relationship, money, anything. Show gratitude already is happening. Thank you for already having this. Thank you for allowing me to win $10 million in a lotto. Thank you for allowing me to be a lottery jackpot winner. Thank you for allowing me to start this new business that's making X and X amount of money per month. Thank you for helping me find the perfect mate. Thank you for helping me find a perfect relationship. These are things that your mind will pick up on and it will start to prove it to you. It's not going to judge you. You can't do it. Subconscious can't judge. It's not a judgmental mind. It's a mind of vibration, frequency, magnetism. It takes resonance and uses the law of vibration. The higher self connects with the superconscious, the information funnels there, comes back to you, and you experience it. That's how the higher mind and the subconscious works now. The ego works in a logical, structural way. Okay, a logical, structural way is after the creation. Okay, remember, creation must come from inwards and it materialize outwards. See, what your ego is doing is it's using the creation that you created from inside, and when it becomes outside or outwards, your ego takes that creation and it muddies it up, it taints it up, and puts it back in its loop and says, I created this, you can't have this, this is why it didn't work, this is why you fail. Okay? Always remember that, guys. So you can bypass the ego by just having the awareness that it's very limited. It's a slow mind when it comes to creation or understanding of a higher level of consciousness. See, these are huge tips that will change your life because you weren't exposed, you weren't even aware of these things, you know? So you've been using your conscious mind more than you have been using your subconscious or higher mind. So now you're aware to use your higher mind. Okay? So the tips to use your higher mind is get into the meditation. That's a connection. Remember, meditation is receiving information from your higher mind. Visualization, you're giving information to the higher mind. Okay? One, you speak to it. The other, you receive from it. Keep your thoughts only on what you desire. Information to the higher mind. Negate the ego by recognizing its traits. It tries to figure out the how, why, when game. It tries to put you down with fear, doubt, and worry, which are just illusions produced in the mind to cripple you, so to speak. Now remember what we talked about. Feelings basically generated through what? Electromagnetic frequencies, chemicals, electrical signals produced in your brains and neurons, or synapses, those gateways between two neuron cells. That's all they are, and you determine and interpret what they mean to you. But your ego uses these things to deceive. Just keep in mind that the reason fear exists is a basic premise to keep you alive, to keep you safe. That's what your ego uses. Your higher self never uses fear, okay? So keep in mind, here's another big tip to catch you in. Always remember, any thoughts or desires that are moving you towards whatever you want, higher mind. Any thoughts or desires that are taking you away from what you desire, ego mind. Recognize it, disengage it, and you will see huge changes in your life. You will start to control your mind. You will now use your mind as a tool to get you what you desire. All right? So those are some big tips I want to leave you with. And remember, get onto the online in the format I created. Get into those courses. They're free. You can learn. They get you in your mind to get caught up. www.markahoughton.com. Okay, the course lines are there. You can master your mind. You learn how the universe works. Okay, the coaching program, I'm creating it now in an online format, which will be available in maybe by the beginning to the middle of August. You guys can take advantage of that. Basically put everything together in an interactive format where you guys can learn, master, and put these principles in line so that you can create and desire your reality. Okay, guys? So those are the tips I want to leave you with today, and happy manifesting.